Welcome to the basement, the workshop, which in its current incarnation kind of resembles a kid's bouncy house. Anyway, welcome to winter. I've got the fat bikes lined up over here by the door behind me. I've got the indoor trainer system going on over here from the good folks at Saris. The snow has been falling off and on for the past few weeks, and now that we are into January, it is safe to say that winter is here. Now look, as my eyes dart around this room, it's not lost on me that I'm blessed in carbon, in lightweight metals, and in rubber. I know my collection of bikes is vast. Our collection of bikes is vast when I factor in the bikes that I'm looking after for Laura and the kids. So yeah, woe is me if I ever complain about having to maintain lots of bicycles. Now that being said, each bike serves a very distinct purpose. Fat bikes are unique in what they are capable and designed to do. I have a couple of different gravel bikes that I have that have very different uses. The Topstone, for example, is the adventure wagon. It's the bike packing bike. It's the big clearance hog that can clear virtually anything. It's the bike that I'm probably going to be riding when I go off to race around Rwanda in a very short period of time. While the Super 6 Evo SE is more of a race rig. It's lighter, it's more aero, it doesn't mess around with the dropper post, so on and so forth. Now, my reason in explaining this obvious point is that the bike directly behind me serves a very specific purpose too, in that it is my go-to outdoor winter road bike. That there is the Cannondale Synapse. I do a couple very important things to be sure that I have it prepped for winter. So for one, I run the 31mm tires in endurance casing from the good people at Rene Herse. There's all sorts of detritus on the side of the road, especially in the winter, just begging to puncture your tires, which is why I run that endurance casing. Stronger, more durable, longer lasting. I also run a winter sealant. Not all sealant is created equally, so I opt for a sealant that is designed for the frigid temperatures here in the north. Another big one, a huge one, is my fender situation. Now over the years, I've had what I call traditional cheap fenders, the plastic variety that costs probably 50 bucks or so. They basically do a really good job of delaying how soaked and how filthy you're inevitably going to get. Fenders are a perfect example of you get what you pay for. I upped the ante last winter courtesy of having this bike under me in the winter with the right set of eyelets that allow the fenders to be mounted directly to the bike. And so at about $150 for this aluminum fender set, they are worth so much more than 3 pairs of $50 fenders. So check it out, the length of these fenders is ideal. They're so much longer than anything that I've used before and so much better than the plastic variety, which are not rigid enough to be long in the first place because they're flimsy and would just bounce all over the place on the bumpy roads or with lots of wind at speed. So the whole point is aluminum can be stronger, more rigid, and longer. Another one is the universal mud flap. I'm rocking that on the back of the rear and on the back of the front fender. It is shocking how well that thing works to protect you from road grime coming up and covering you head to toe. I am 100% a convert into this, let's call it eyelet aluminum system, so check out Rene Herse for this fender system. Another big one is the SmartSense system. Now this single battery powers the rear radar, which is a huge help this time of year, plus the headlight and taillight. Now I'm a fan of this year round, but especially here in the winter when the sun is setting what seems like a few minutes after lunch, this thing is a huge, huge help. Now then, maintaining a bike in the summer is a heck of a lot easier than in the winter. So if you live in, let's say, Arizona or Southern California, someplace warm and dry, needless to say, this video does not apply to you. But with any luck, you're gonna get a kick out of the extra work that goes into winter riding in these chillier climates than where you call home. So to that point, I've made a video in the past of what exactly goes into keeping up a winter bike, letting it run year round smoothly, noticeably how I clean my bike in the winter so that I don't become frozen like an icicle when I'm standing knee deep in a snowbank freshly back from a long ride. Not to mention how to clean off the grit and grime and keep my drivetrain happy. Now I'll drop a video into the notes below or maybe even on the screen somewhere now if I can figure out how to do that. YouTube makes it slightly easier said than done. But here we are on the cusp of winter. And from here in the comfort of a warm home, a warm basement, I wanted to give my bike a little bit of TLC before going into the harsh months ahead. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is take a look at the chain. Now I use a standard chain measuring tool, something like this, to make sure that I'm replacing chains regularly and not ruining an entire drivetrain with overuse. Again, it's easy to finish a ride, chuck your bike inside and not pay attention to it. Something like that makes it really smart and simple to maintain a drivetrain. The chemicals with which they are treating roads here in New England and probably throughout the Midwest, the salt, the sand, the grime, it noticeably exacerbates wear. So pay attention to your chain and your cassette too, especially this time of year. Obviously, charging batteries is a very simple task, but it's one that easily goes forgotten. I recently got my hands on this bad dog. That is a 4 battery charger for SRAM ETAP batteries. Given the number of bikes that I'm looking after between mine and Laura's, this is a small change with a huge upside, a simple task made simpler, and that is something that I'm all about. Don't forget to get your hands on the SRAM app to check in on your components. Now, this is an additional reminder that you need to wake up each component, shifters especially, in order to get the correct battery reading. A bike that is potentially sat for 8+ months probably needs a battery change or at least a charge. Charging the Cannondale Smart Sense system is something that I probably do every other ride or so. It's easy to check in on the battery life, but riding with a dead battery is something that I do not want to do this time of year, so I'm vigilant on charging that. New bar tape. I mean, doing something simple like changing your bar tape is a task like taking your car to the cleaner. Fresh tape just makes everything feel fresh and new. And of course, along the same lines, a general wash is always a good help. So the bike behind me, it is dusty. It's a little bit gross, might have some cobwebs on it. It's going to be washed a lot in the coming months, but I want to set off on the right foot with a fresh, clean feeling bike. So it's going to get a wash. Brake pads. Brake pads are a big one. Similar to a drivetrain, given the close personal contact that it's getting from the roads, unlike a nice dry day in the desert, brakes are getting worked this time of year courtesy of those sloppy conditions. So be very vigilant with pads to make sure that you're not eventually slowing your bike down with the pistons directly on the rotors. You don't want to get to that point. It's not a bad idea. It's arguably a good idea to check in on your bearings. Make sure your headset is rotating smoothly. Check the bottom bracket, your derailleur pulleys. I'm thankful that I've done that a lot in the past year, which is why this bike is in generally good working order. Most of these are actually easy enough to swap out as needed, and it's not the worst thing to do this time of year. So give yourself an extra hour, go through those bearings and make sure that your bike is working properly. So there you have it. Those are my tips for maintaining your bike as we gear up for the harsh winter ahead. Check out my other videos that I've made for winter riding, including riding a bike packing trip down the James Bay Descent in Northern Canada in February. So now that I've created a lengthy to-do list, I am gonna go put on new bar tape. I'm gonna check in with the brake pads. I'm gonna make sure my chain is ready to go. I'm gonna make sure my tires are full of sealant. I have a lot to do. Hopefully you do not have too much to do. Thank you very much for watching. Please rate this video. Please leave a comment below. Thank you very much. Until next time, please enjoy the ride.